My wife pointed out that one of the things she loves about Amazon is you can look back at your purchases, and it's a really great reflection of what's going on in your life at the time based on what you're buying. And it occurred to me that the reverse is also true, that the e-commerce journey that everybody probably in this room has gone on mirrors what you and Amazon have gone through, first only selling books and now selling everything. And so we've all kind of gone on that journey together. And I looked back at my purchase history, and in 2004, I bought exactly one thing on Amazon. It was a book. By 2006, I had a 500% increase in purchases, 4 books and 1 Gillette razor, and which I used tonight. And
hopefully a new one.
Yeah, the new one. Yeah. And then by 2015, a year, we had just gotten married, moved into a home, got dogs. We bought everything for our dogs. We bought a TV, bought a snowblower, bought allergy medicine, peanut butter. I looked these things up, literally everything, 4 days a week ordering. And so the question is, at what point did you realize you'd have the scale of success with Amazon going from books to where you are now as a company?
Well, I have a question for you. In 2004, do you know what book it was you bought?
I do remember. It was Writing Screenplays That Sell. And it did not. I was
going to say, how did that work out? Do you want your money back?
I could return it?
I'll take it back.
Because that did not work out for me. I'm going to keep my day job.
But so your question is, did I kind of anticipate what would happen over the last 22 years at Amazon? And the answer is, God, no. So, Amazon started as a very small company. It was me and a few other people. I was driving all the packages to the post office myself in my 1987 Chevy Blazer. When I raised money for Amazon, I had to raise $1 million, which I raised from 22 different investors, $50,000 each. They got 20% of the company for the $1 million. And it was 40 people told me no. So I had to take 60 meetings to get 20 yeses. The first question was always, what's the internet? And I had to walk through that. And this was 1994, early 95. And so did I anticipate, fast forward to today and the current version of it? No. It has been one foot in front of the other. And I think that is true for most businesses, where you kind of proceed adaptively. It's step by step. You figure it out. You have a success, and then you kind of double down on that success, and you figure out what else you can do, what customers want. And everything we've done and all the success we have is at its root primarily due to the fact that we have put customers first.
So those few people are probably kicking themselves now that...
Well, it's very interesting. The 40 people who did not invest, it's kind of a study in human nature. I'm in touch with a few of them still, and some of them take it in great stride and they recognize that they actually have ridiculously happy lives. Others of them actually cannot talk about it. It is actually just too painful. That's human nature, and some people are better at rolling with the punches.
I would be in the do not talk about it camp, probably. But speaking of talking, I have the privilege of being able to talk to a lot of people in Washington about all of our member companies. And Amazon is one where I think people have a very different idea of what Amazon is. Some people see you as an e-commerce company or a retailer. Others see you as an innovative tech company. You have Amazon Web Services, and you have original content, and you have Alexa and so many other things. How should we be thinking about Amazon?
Yeah, I do get that is something that people get confused about sometimes. What is Amazon? We do such a diverse array of things, from producing original content at Amazon Studios to Amazon Web Services, where we sell startups and enterprises, computing infrastructure, to the things that most people know about, which is our consumer offering, where we deliver things in little brown boxes. And these things seem so disparate. How is it that we're doing all of them? And the common thread, and really what it is it's an approach. We have a very distinctive approach that we have been honing and refining and thinking about for 22 years. And it's really just a few principles that we use as we go about these activities. At the very top of the list is one I've already mentioned, but you'll probably hear it 10 times throughout tonight because it's so central. And it is customer obsession. It's customer obsession instead of, for example, competitor obsession, or business model obsession, or product obsession, or technology obsession. There are many ways to center a business. And by the way, many of them can work. I know and have friends who lead very competitor-obsessed companies, and those companies can be successful. You know, that's not a bad strategy. You have to be really good at close following. You identify winners when you watch your competitors very carefully. If they latch onto something that's working, you duplicate it as quickly as possible. It's a very good strategy in some ways because you don't have to go down blind alleys. If you're not pioneering, if you're only close following, it has some advantages. But it has some disadvantages too. And I like the customer obsession model. I think it's the right one. I think it's better than product obsession even. I think product obsession is not bad, but I think customer obsession gets you there in a healthier way. So that's one of the principles, one of the approaches that we take in every single thing that we do. The second one is that we are willing, I would say even eager, to invent and pioneer. So that is, I think that goes along, it marries really well with customer obsession. Customers are always dissatisfied. Even when they don't know it, even when they think they're happy, they actually do want a better way, and they just don't know yet what that should be. And that's why I always warn people, customer obsession is not just listening to customers. Customer obsession is also inventing on their behalf, because it's not their job to invent for themselves. And so you need to be an inventor and a pioneer. And the third one that's really central to the way we think about all of our business problems and a bunch of things at Amazon is we're long-term oriented. So I ask everybody to not think in 2 to 3 year time frames, but to think in 5 to 7 year time frames. To not think about, when somebody says to me, congratulates Amazon on a good quarter, which is a very common thing to say. You meet somebody, they're being nice, they looked at your financial results for the quarter, they're like, good quarter. I say thank you. But what I'm thinking to myself is, that quarter, those quarterly results were actually pretty much fully baked about 3 years ago. And so like today, I'm working on, you know, a quarter that is going to happen in 2020, not next quarter. Next quarter, for all practical purposes, is done already, and it's probably been done for a couple of years. And so if you start to think that way, it changes how you spend your time, how you plan, where you put your energy, and your ability to look around corners gets better. So many things improve if you can take a long term. By the way, it's not natural for humans, so it's a discipline that you have to build. The kind of feel yourself for, discipline, and teach over time. So that's what is Amazon. I would say really it's a collection of principles and it's an approach that we deploy, and it's fun. I dance into work.
Me too. I'm not a good dancer though. I mean, Get Rich Slowly as a book I probably should have gotten instead of the screenplay book. But
by the way, you know, one of our award recipients earlier mentioned that you were happy you got rid of your bangs. Me too. Yeah, I hated my bangs. So
clearly you do not take the success of Amazon lightly, and you're very involved in the company. And one of the great things about the internet, many of your competitors are in this room tonight, and competition's a click away. There are probably people in garages across the country trying to start the next great internet company like you did.
For sure.
And so what does keep you up at night when you think about the continued success of Amazon?
Well, first of all, I'm gifted with sleeping really well. So the particular metaphor doesn't work for me, but I know what you mean, which is what could go wrong and what are you worried about. And for me, the thing I worry about the most is that we would lose our way in one of those things, that we would lose our obsessive focus on customers, or would somehow become short-term oriented, or would, you know, start to become overly cautious, you know, kind of failure averse, and therefore unable to invent and pioneer. You cannot invent and pioneer if you cannot accept failure. To invent, you need to experiment. And if you know in advance that it's going to work, it is not an experiment. And so that's a very important thing. They are inseparable twins, failure and invention. And so you have to be willing to do that. And it's embarrassing to fail. It's always embarrassing to fail. But you have to say, no, that's not how this works. If I said to you, you have a 10% chance with a particular decision, a 10% chance of a 100x return, you should take that bet every time. But you're still going to be wrong 9 out of 10 times. And it's going to feel bad 9 out of 10 times. And with technology, the outcomes, the results can be very long-tailed. The payoff can be very asymmetric, which is why you should do so much experimentation. Everybody knows that if you swing for the fences, you hit more home runs, but you also strike out more. But with the baseball, that analogy doesn't go far enough, because with baseball, no matter how well you connect with the ball, you can only get 4 runs. The success is capped at 4 runs. But in business, every once in a while, you step up to the plate and you hit the ball so hard, you get 1,000 runs. And so when you have that kind of asymmetric payoff, and one at bat can get you 1,000 runs, it encourages you to experiment more. It's the right business decision to experiment more. It's also better for your customers. Customers like the successful experiments. By the way, this is a giant misconception in a lot of young entrepreneurs, inexperienced entrepreneurs that they meet. One of the things that is very fashionable right now is to talk about how disruptive their business plan is going to be. But invention is not disruptive. Only customer adoption is disruptive. At Amazon, we've invented a lot of things that customers did not care about at all. And believe me, they were not disruptive to anyone. So it's only when customers like the new way that anything becomes disruptive. And so really it's just saying that you want to, if somebody comes to you with a business plan that they claim is disruptive, you should ask them to explain it to you in simpler language. And the simpler language is, why are customers going to adopt this? Why are they going to like it? Why is it better than the traditional way?
So along those lines, we have some press and media in the room. Is there something that you think people get wrong about Amazon that surprises you when you read about it or see it in media coverage?
Well, wrong. I don't know about wrong. First of all, we've been over 20 years on balance treated very fairly by the media, and not every story that's ever been written about us is the way we would have written it if we were writing it ourselves. But on balance, very fairly treated. So wrong might be too strong. I think there's a piece of our business which is probably not fully appreciated, the scale of it and what's happening and the energy and the dynamism around it, which is the third-party seller part of our business. So, we have, today, roughly half of the company really is third-party sales. It's small businesses. There are 100,000 businesses on Amazon where the businesses make $100,000 or more a year. And it's turned into, a gigantic service for them. We even let them stow their products in our fulfillment centers so that their products become Prime eligible, which increases their sales. And a lot of people make their living on that, that way. And we've extended that into other areas too. We have a platform called Kindle Direct Publishing, so authors can write books and then publish them directly, and that's become very successive. So there are a lot of authors making.
One of our employees have done that. Chris Hooton, our economist, has a book published on that.
Right,
it's very good.
And people make livings. I mean, there are people who, I have so many emails from authors saying, because of this program, I've been able to quit my job. And they usually come, they already have like 25 rejection letters from traditional publishers, because their book didn't fit in a category or it didn't seem right and so on, but readers disagreed. And so one of the things that you get when you let people, I think of this as more like gardening. You kind of get all the nutrients right in the soil, and then you see what comes up. And that's what happens with these third-party businesses. We don't plan which books people are going to write. We just provide a service that makes it really easy for them to contact and reach readers. And then they create they create new things. Same thing with Amazon Web Services. You know, we create a set of tools, and then, you know, software developers and companies that employ software developers, they figure out surprising and amazing things to build with these tools. And so empowering these third parties to do things is probably, starting with our third-party sellers and authors and AWS, probably the biggest thing that most, I would say, consumers probably don't appreciate about Amazon. And good investors understand it very well.
So 10 years ago, you mentioned AWS. So Amazon has changed so much in 10 years. 10 years ago, you were barely in cloud computing.
Yeah.
Certainly not doing...
We just started in cloud computing.
Just started it. Certainly not doing...
Another overnight success. I've noticed all overnight successes take about 10 years.
That's the right amount of time, probably. So we're 5 years away as a...
Yeah, you start something and just start the clock.
Any year now. So Amazon's changed so much over that period of time. Can you preview or predict maybe what Amazon's going to look like 10 years from now?
Well, that's a very good question. I think on the outside, you know, kind of, you know, the observable Amazon could change quite a bit. Just as you said, there, you know, 10 years ago, you wouldn't think that AWS would be such a significant contributor to the business, and there could be more things like that in a kind of 10-year time frame that we don't know about. The one thing I hope will not change, of course, is that approach that I outlined at the beginning. You know, the customer obsession, the willingness to invent, the patience, letting things develop, accepting failure as a path to getting success. By the way, one thing I should point out about failure, and this is a fine point, internally we take it, we know it, and we don't need to talk about it much, but there's a different kind of failure which is not what you want. That's where you have operating history, and you do know what you're doing, and you just screw it up. So that's not a good failure. That's not an experiment. That's just bad operational excellence. And so, like, if we've opened 130 fulfillment centers, we're on generation 8 of our fulfillment center technology. If we open a new fulfillment center and just woof it, you know, we have to do some internal examination. That's not an experiment. That's just bad execution. So there's different kinds of failure, and you need to make sure you're making the right kind of failure. The right kind of failure should be an invention. It should be something that, you know, it's an experiment. You don't know if it's going to work, and you know up front that you don't know if it's going to work. That shouldn't be opening a new fulfillment center for us.